So today we're going to dig into the incredible transformation of U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement, ICE. It's been fueled by a mind-boggling budget and a completely new mission, and it's now operating on a scale that honestly was unimaginable just a few years ago. Let's get into how we got here.
All right, first up, on the streets. To really understand this huge shift, we can't just look at policy papers. We need to see what this new reality actually looks like on the ground. So just picture this scene. It's Chicago 2025. Videos start popping up all over the city, and they're all showing this new, incredibly aggressive type of law enforcement. We're not talking about a few arrests here and there. We're talking about over 1,000 arrests, many of them happening in these huge military-style raids.
And the scale of these operations, it's just staggering. This is not a couple of officers showing up to serve a warrant. We're talking Black Hawk helicopters circling overhead. We're talking platoons of armed agents pouring out of military-sized vehicles. In one raid, tenants said everyone in the building was detained, and that included U.S. citizens and their kids. Which brings up a really fundamental question. How on earth did an immigration agency get to this point?
To answer that, we have to rewind a bit. We need to look at how IC was even created in the first place and what it was originally supposed to do.
So you really can't talk about ICE without talking about 9/11. The agency was literally born from the ashes of that day. The U.S. completely re-engineered its national security, creating the massive Department of Homeland Security. ICE was a key part of that, and its job was to protect the country by enforcing immigration and customs laws, mostly against threats coming from the outside.
And for almost 20 years, under both Republican and Democratic presidents, ICE's focus was pretty targeted. Even President Barack Obama, who got the nickname Deporter-in-Chief because he oversaw a record number of removals, mostly went after immigrants with criminal records or people who were seen as a national security risk. But that is not the playbook anymore. The Trump administration made it crystal clear, if you are here without authorization, you are a target. Period.
Okay, so how does an agency transform so completely, so fast? Well, it really comes down to three things: a whole lot of money, a brand new mission, and a massive surge in manpower. Let's start with the money. Look at this number, $29 billion. That's ICE's annual budget. And you know what? That's just a slice of the pie. The whole pie is a jaw-dropping $170 billion set aside for immigration and border enforcement. To really wrap your head around that number, look at this. ICE's budget is now pretty much the same as the combined budgets of the FBI, the DEA, and the entire federal prison system. It has become, almost overnight, the most well-funded federal law enforcement agency in American history.
Here's a wild way to think about it, and it really hits home. With that kind of funding, ICE has unimaginable resources, enough to rival the entire military of a country like Canada. It's a game changer.
And what is all that cash being used for? To achieve a new, very explicit mission set during the Trump administration: arrest 3,000 migrants a day and deport 1 million people every single year. This was a complete and total pivot toward mass removals.
And this quote from the administration really says it all. It just removes any doubt about the strategy. It's no longer about prioritizing dangerous criminals, it's about targeting anyone and everyone who is undocumented.
Now, to hit those kinds of staggering numbers, you need people. A lot of people. So ICE launched this incredibly aggressive recruitment drive to boost its staff by 50%. They started offering huge sign-up bonuses, student loan repayments, and they even cut the training time from months down to just a few weeks to get agents on the streets as fast as possible.
But what's drawn a lot of criticism is the messaging in these recruitment campaigns. Ads have used nationalist slogans like "defend your culture," and even German phrases like "Ein Heimatland, ein Volk, ein Erbe," which translates to "one homeland, one people, one heritage." Other ads were aimed directly at police in Democrat-run cities, telling them to quit their jobs and join ICE. This has led critics to question, who exactly is the agency trying to attract with this kind of language?
So, we've seen the money, the mission, the manpower. But what does all this actually mean for people? What are the real-world consequences for communities all across the country? Well, let's start by looking at who's actually being arrested and detained. The official line was that this was all about targeting the worst of the worst. But when you actually look at the data, it tells a totally different story. Almost half of all the people in ICE detention have no criminal conviction at all. And this constant threat of raids creates what experts call a chilling effect. In communities with big immigrant populations, schools have reported huge spikes in student absences. Parents are often just too scared to send their kids to school, terrified they could be picked up and separated during the day.
That fear stretches into healthcare, too. People are avoiding hospitals and clinics, even when they're eligible for care and desperately need it. The fear of any kind of contact with an official institution is just that powerful.
And maybe the most dangerous part of this chilling effect? It makes everyone less safe. When people in immigrant communities are afraid to report crimes or talk to local police, it makes it that much harder to keep entire neighborhoods safe.
And beyond that climate of fear, there is a very direct, very tragic human toll. The number of deaths in ICE custody has hit a 20-year high. There have been fatal shootings of citizens during enforcement actions. We've seen masked agents detaining journalists. And the administration has dug up old, rarely used laws to justify stopping and detaining people, which just adds to this intense climate of fear and uncertainty.
So you take all of this, the money, the mission, the real-world impact, and it's pretty clear the country is standing at a major crossroads.
Because here's the reality. There are an estimated 14 million undocumented immigrants living in the United States, and the vast majority of them aren't recent arrivals. Most have been living here, working here for over a decade.
And all of this leads us to the final, $170 billion question. Is this supercharged version of ICE the new normal for America? Is this level of enforcement just a permanent part of life now? Or will this incredibly aggressive approach finally force a real reckoning, a real decision about the future of the millions of people who have built their lives in this country but are still forced to live in the shadows? The answer, whatever it is going to define this nation for years to come.